I'm Chad Reed.
I'm Hillary Langer.
I'm Gil Jenkins.
I'm Guy Van Sickle.
And this is Climate Positive.
Maritime industry is de facto quite traditional, old-fashioned, if I may. They are not really the early adapters on many things. So it is like a slow-moving train starting to accelerate, but when it goes, it really goes.
For this week's episode, we're looking at an innovative climate solution that blends engineering with imagination, rotor sails. I'm joined by my colleague Kenny Gayles to talk with Heikki Pöntynen, CEO of the Finland-based company Norsepower, about why this wind propulsion technology is taking off and what it can mean for the maritime industry's efforts to decarbonize. Heikki, welcome to Climate Positive.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Well, to kick things off, could you tell us about Norsepower's mission and where you see the business today? And for listeners new to the space, what exactly is a rotor sail and how does it work? I think there's a baseball analogy that I'd love for you to unpack.
Yeah, with pleasure. I mean, Norsepower is a clean tech company. Our mission is really to bring the sails back to shipping. And by doing that, save the planet, actually. That's one of our missions, really. Our product is a rotor sail, and the rotor sail is a cylinder that rotates on a deck of a ship. It is not a generator. It doesn't collect any energy. We have an electric motor that makes it spin, and then it creates lower pressure on the other side of the cylinder and higher pressure on the other side of the cylinder. Exactly the same phenomenon if you, for instance, hit a golf ball. And what happens to me oftentimes, it just disappears into the woods.
Yes.
Yeah. So if I make it a spin, it starts to curve to that direction. And it's exactly the same force that is happening, that's being created around the rotor sail. And just maybe to give you a magnitude, we are talking about megawatts of power. So at times, at good conditions, the rotor sail can create even more power than the main engine. So we are not talking about minimal things here. It is really a substantial force that's being created by this, what's called in scientific terms, a Magnus effect.
And Norsepower is really the original leaders of the wind propulsion industry as we know it today. I imagine you have how many patents on this rotor sail technology?
We have already almost 100 patents on this one. That's all about the intelligence, the controls, automation, the product itself, of course, and the production technology. So we try to be the inventor in this industry. We sort of created the industry. The product had been dormant for 100 years. I mean, this was invented already in the early 1900s. And then again, now it's taken into use. I mean, same in all think that we talk about disruptive technologies that all emerge into the markets along with the new requirements, regulations, new sentiments, and so forth.
Yes, its time has come. Talk about the efficiency. I read that your rotor sails typically deliver between 5 to 25% fuel savings on a ship. And the emissions reductions are huge as well. Could you talk a little bit about those specs and sort of what determines that range beyond, sailing conditions, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're right. We can say on average that our product saves from 5 to 25%. And there's a direct correlation to the savings in emissions when it comes to savings in fuel, of course. In good conditions, we can talk about even 50% savings. And we have ships that sail with the rotor sails only. I mean, mid-sized tanker doing 8 knots with the main engine shut down in good conditions. I think this is substantial. But of course, it depends on the wind conditions, all the environment around the ships, waves, currents, and so forth. And of course, the amount of sails that the ship has been installed on.
You've been the CEO since a little over a year, right? May of last year?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about your personal and career journey that led you to become CEO of Norsepower.
Well, actually, I was first recruited as a board member. So I started as a director in the board and sort of get to know the company in depth and so forth. What happened actually, why I was so intrigued about the whole product is that when I started to get more familiar with the company and with the product and the people, I joined the board and sort of got a broader understanding about the opportunities on the market. Eventually, it came to the point when the board decided, hey, can you take over the company and become a CEO? To join this team that I knew but on the surface. I mean, we have in Helsinki office, we have 21 different nationalities already here out of the 80 people. So our team is really phenomenal. I mean, a lot of young talents working towards the same goal, saving the planet, sharing the same vision and sort of philosophy. That's been the most rewarding thing in the whole endeavor.
That's great. Getting back to the product and the customers, what does a typical retrofit look like for a ship owner, and who is ultimately adopting this solution?
The adopter, it would be a forward-looking ship owner or ship manager. Two ways to look at it. One is, of course, to have a share the environmental sentiment and sort of philosophy. The second thing is clear to earn money. And when it comes to typical retrofit, what happens is that let's say the foundations and connections, everything is done along with the class survey docking, for instance, 5-year docking. So all the preparatory work can be done and the ship is rotor sail ready. What happens then is that we can install the sail at the shipyard, of course, but we can do it in any port of the world later on in one day. Just plug it in and then do the commissioning on voyage, just to minimize the off-hire for the ship owner. So this is quite a typical way to do the retrofits. And actually 2/3 of our business is retrofits.
Wait a second. You said one day you can do a retrofit?
Yeah, we can just plug it in. We lift it, put it in, and then the ship sails.
Wow. Fantastic. And correct me if I have the numbers wrong here, but I read that you've done 32 units installed on 18 ships as of March 25, and you've got another 40 units planned for 15 ships and a sales funnel of €500 million. Talk about growth potential.
To be exact, I'm always afraid of this question because I can't keep the figures in my head.
Right.
Currently, I say that we have 40 installed and 40 on order. That's sort of the way it's just received this week another order for 2 ships, 2 sails per ship. So the figures are increasing quite rapidly. When it comes to our client base, I can say that 2 years ago, we had to explain how rotor sail worked. What's Magnus effects? What's the physics around the sail? Currently, everybody knows how it works. I mean, we get 2 inquiries per day, 2 per day, which is substantial, actually. Our sales team is very busy in answering and replying to those questions that we're having. So the awareness among our clients is really increasing rapidly. So everybody knows how it works along with these professional circles.
And I imagine related to this growth you're seeing, you announced a big deal in April of this year. Perhaps you've already opened it, the world's first dedicated rotor sail factory in China with a capacity to produce 50 units per year, scale up to 100 by the end of 27. Talk about that milestone, if you would. And I think you also separately have an MOU with Costco Shipping, which is a big ship owner and builder in China. You know, that's a massive opportunity, no doubt.
That's correct. I mean, we felt that we need to have our own facility to have really the full control over the whole production cycle. So that some years ago, we decided already that we'll have our own facility, own factory. And it was quite a natural place to have it in China. 70% of new builds are done in China. So we get close to the markets. A lot of the ship repair and retrofits also take place in that country. So now we have since November last year, actually, our wholly owned factory. And I'm really proud to say that now we are on quality, on schedule, on budget with our deliveries. So the teething pains that we've had in the past when developing the product, I can say now we have proven product with a very stable production. So it was absolutely the right move to do for Norsepower. And when it comes to the capacity issues, I mean, we can increase the capacity easily to 130 per year already now at this stage. So there's room to expand that facility.
And a deal like that, just coming together, I imagine, takes a lot of work. You have some background working in China, I believe, from looking at your CV. Anything interesting working with China today versus in the past? Been a good experience scaling there as a manufacturer?
I mean, I've had 30 years experience working in China. I lived in the country for 4 years. So I'm familiar with, let's say on the surface, I'm familiar with what's happening in the country and how things could be done. Having said that, of course, the more you know, the less you know, actually, about this in China. But actually, quite hilarious moment when we made the agreement with COSCO Heavy Industry for manufacturing and for the joint operation. The person who signed the agreement together with me was working together with me 28 years ago when we worked together on making hatch covers. with the same facility. So nice to meet all old friends, and really the connections are there. And I like working with these people. They are very diligent and hardworking people, and I have absolutely a positive cling to it.
Well, let's turn to, what did you say a second ago? The more you know, the less you know. Let's turn to the regulatory and policy landscape, which I'll admit in preparing for this interview, I was not familiar with the interesting web of international regulators in this space. So the first one, the International Maritime Organization, which is the UN body responsible for regulating global shipping, they have a plan to reduce emissions in shipping. But I've read that experts, and perhaps you would agree, that the current measures to achieve those targeted reductions, I think it's 50% by 2030, they're not doing well. While that's going on, alternative fuels are another way to decarbonize shipping. Those remain expensive and are probably in short supply. So a solution that you're offering with retrofits, quick to build. How are you thinking about the EU and the IMO and what they're doing right, what they could be doing better to sort of accelerate cleaner shipping?
Many big shipping nations actually share the vision with me that the current measures are not enough. We need even more strict rules. And IMO has launched a program, it's called MEPC 83. The first meeting was in April this year with a new set of rules, more strict rules, and the ratification meeting will be in October this year. And all the eyes are on that meeting now, because that would mean that the rules will become more strict even. And for us, it's very good news. I mean, the payback times for our product will be like 50% what they've been in the past. So reducing really, doubling the earnings capacity for each rotor sail, doubling or tripling the opportunities, actually. That's the magnitude we are talking about. And actually, when you come to rotor sail and other alternatives like biofuels, alternative fuels, I see the future will look like a hybrid solution for when all these types of things will be combined together with air lubrication systems for ship's hull. But what is the fundamental difference between a rotor sail and alternative fuel is that rotor sail is a capex investment that has a clear payback time, and after that starts to create profits to the owner. Whereas biofuels are increasing the OPEX. They can be even 4 times higher than the heavy fuel with less efficiency per liter. So I'm a strong believer in this type of investment that has a clear payback time. The client can enjoy the benefits of a rotor sail for a period of the lifetime of the ship, really, and start to generate, really, in clear terms, revenues by saving in penalties, by increasing the ship speed.
I really like that concept, and I think it's important that these different technologies are given a good chance to be incorporated into the ships. And that brings me to a natural question. Norsepower, the original provider of wind propulsion, you coined the term rotor sail, a longest track record, most installations, but there's other decarbonized propulsion technologies, some you referenced. What distinct advantages do the rotor sails have over the other propulsion technologies, and how do you view that competition in this space?
We welcome competition because that creates a market environment when customers have alternatives and they can make clear comparisons between different products. We made our studies, and we can say that based on our studies and third-party verified studies, the rotor sail as a concept produces the best return in terms of euro cent per kilowatt produced. So whether it's a Norsepower rotor sail or other type of solution, it's always a good potential in creating savings. However, the rotor sail concept seems to be the best one on the market. Why I'm saying that also is that it's very easy for the crew to operate that. You basically switch it on when you leave the port, and then you switch it off when you return to the port. Everything else is controlled by automation controls. We have an AI-based system that optimizes even the rotating speed, and that together with the voyage optimization systems creates a concept that proves the maximum efficiency to the ship owner. And also that combined with our control system, together with the main propulsion, we can even optimize the underwater propulsion together with the wind-assisted propulsion power. So it becomes more like really science and, let's say, intangible assets inside the whole system instead of having just a mechanical cylinder rotating. It's all about bringing the brains into the whole system and the setup.
One quick follow-up back to the regulatory landscape. There's got to be some tension in here. My perception is that the international maritime industry and then maybe shipping industry in general, there's some entrenched players and change is hard. You're saying we're starting to see an awareness, certainly for the technology that wasn't there 2 years ago. But what's it like when you're meeting with these regulators? What message are you still trying to get across? What tension are you still fighting in terms of bringing change to an industry as big as and entrenched as shipping?
I would say that we need to bring more clarity into the whole equation so that the ship owners, ship operators, they would understand what does this really mean and when it's time to act. I mean, the rules are pretty clear, but what are the implications now? Ships calling a European port and they are facing penalties because if they don't take any measures to save the environment. So maybe just clarity in here. When it comes to the ratification of the rules, like what I referred to the MEPC 83, the majority, the really vast majority of the countries have already voted yes in April.
Oh, the drama is over for October. There'll be no waiting on pins and needles, right?
Yeah. Well, I would be very happy if I could say so.
Okay.
Of course.
I won't hold you to it.
Things can happen, but the world is quite optimistic about this. So some countries vote empty, and some countries, the biggest fleet owners are really for this. And there are countries in the Pacific that has actually quite huge fleets, and they are even stating that these measures are not enough. They like them to be even more strict.
Any other challenges? You've got momentum clearly, but what else is keeping back further widespread adoption?
I wouldn't like to say that, but I mean, maritime industry is de facto quite traditional, old-fashioned, if I may. They are not really the early adapters on many things. So it is like a slow-moving train starting to accelerate, but when it goes, it really goes.
Yeah, when the ship turns, as they say.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But when I look at our customer base, there is a generation taking over the ship management, the superintendents. They are very environmentally conscious people now taking the helm of these companies. So everybody knows what's going on, and quite many are actually taking action. Looking at the situation, I've already mentioned that we got 2 inquiries per day. No need to explain what are the benefits of a rotor sail. So the awareness is there already. So the question is really to get the boards approved this.
Right, and execute. And
yeah, exactly. So we've got so many technical teams of ship owners who are fascinated about the product. We want this, we want to go sailing. And then the board says, oh, we don't give you the money. Then we have to come in and say, sir, you have a payback time here for 2 to 3 years. And after that, this is all profit for you.
Heikki, you want to have a little fun? We like to close our interviews with lightning round, or what we call the hot seat. There's no wrong answer. Most of these are open-ended, but just the first thing that comes to your mind. And if you're ready, I'll start.
Okay, go ahead.
What's one leadership lesson you've learned navigating global uncertainty? And there's a lot of that.
Actually, I would say that trust your gut feeling, but base that on figures, on facts and figures. It's quite often the intuition, what feels right, what feels good is the right thing to do. If you think about environment, you don't go wrong.
What's one thing people still get wrong about rotor sails or Norsepower?
This is an easy one. Quite many people think that it's a generator. It collects energy, which it's not. It is really electricity that makes it spin and creates a thrust. That's the reverse type of concept.
I mean, it's maybe the battery that people just...
Yeah, exactly.
Something that Norsepower is doing behind the scenes, maybe it has to do with AI that you alluded to earlier, that people wouldn't expect, but will be a big deal in a year.
Certainly, that's the AI and all things related to that. Develop steering systems and concepts. How do we really can get the last megawatts out of the whole system?
Will we see these on cruise ships, or is it just limited to cargo ships?
Basically, we see those mainly on ships that has enough free deck space. So that's the easy answer to this question.
And the cruise ships,
They covet that deck space.
They got these poles and roller coasters and
That's right.
you name it. But there is no other hinder, so nothing prevents us from installing those on cruise ships. Sometimes you have air draft problems, but we have a tilting solution for those also. Maybe when this comes more and more common in the industry, those will be on cruise ships, because also cruise ships need to be environmentally friendly.
All right, next up. They say the happiest people in the world are in Finland. What's one Finnish habit or mindset the rest of the world should adopt?
I mean, we are by nature very much close to nature, outdoor people. We enjoy the clean environment. I think that's one part of the thing that brings the happiness. If you go and have a walk in the woods in a clean air, you can have a silent moment there and think about things with an empty brain, for instance, pick berries and all this. And of course, have a sauna in the evening and relax and have a swim in the lake. Maybe that's the concept that most people would think about. But I think it's really having the chance of being free at times.
Do you have a favorite shipyard story?
Maybe just a funny incident. When we were students, Carnival Cruise Line was building big ships here in Helsinki shipyard, the Fantasy class. And we were recruited to measure the noise and vibrations on the sea voyage. This is a 24-hour job. So at night, we ended up in disco testing the vibrations in there.
That was part of your testing job, right?
Yeah,
the
exactly.
Discotheque.
Yeah, we're measuring the noise and vibrations.
Oh, sure.
And somebody opened the microphone and started to do, "Hello, ship, how are you doing?" And he pressed the wrong button. So every loudspeaker on ship was broadcasting his voice. And the whole ship echoed, and we didn't hear that, of course, because we were in that room. And Mr. Harrison was on board, for instance, the owner of Carnival Cruise Line. So we got a little bit headache the next day.
That's pretty good. That's a good one.
Last two. How do you want Norsepower to be remembered?
I would like Norsepower to be remembered as a company who really brought the sales back to shipping, who taught the industry again, and who was sort of forerunner in bringing this and invested a lot of brain power and funds into this thing. And we get a lot of followers, so we can't be wrong in this.
Final question that we ask all our guests. We ask you to fill in the blank. To me, climate positive means
that I save more than I consume.
Good note to end it on. Heikki, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
If you enjoyed this week's podcast, please leave us a rating and review on Apple and Spotify. It really helps us reach more listeners. You can also let us know what you thought via Twitter @ClimatePosiPod or email us at climatepositive@hasi.com. I'm Gil Jenkins, and this is Climate Positive.